guerillas. Hello, my baby guerillas. How are we on? We are live and rocking and rolling. How's things going? I like this guy. I really like this fella. Don't know where he popped up from, but I think he sounds like a cool character. Let's have a wee look at this gentleman. This was on Fox News in America on the 16th of April. Let's have a look. I like his hoodie as well. What this fella's name is, but it seems like a nice chap.
Joining me now is my dear brother Miles Toure. He is the founder.
Miles Toure. Miles, if you want to get in contact with the Guerilla TV channel, we'd love to have you on. Seems like an excellent fellow.
The Black Guns Matter.
Black Guns Matter. Totally in connection with what's actually happening with the things happening in America with the Marxist BLM, and we'll get on to what wee Nippy's doing in a minute. So let's have a wee listen to Mark.
He is the founder of Black. Joining me now is my dear brother Miles Toure. He is
Miles Toure. So Mr. Toure, let's have a listen to what Mr. Toure's saying.
The founder of Black Guns Matter.
Black Guns Matter.
You know, we often make the separation between...
Don't forget, obviously, Mr. Toure is just following what's under the First Amendment.
Between the group, Black Lives Matter, and the people. So are you surprised about this? Because I know I'm not.
I'm not surprised by this at all. This part for the course, man. Listen, they got one playbook. The playbook has been exposed. The frustrating part is the fact that the American people still allow it. And I can't even say the American people are tricked by it. We allow it, right? So this isn't surprising. I mean, we're seeing big tech hide behind government, you know, Section 230. And
yeah, when they're banning people in the UK, they're interfering in British politics.
And basically manipulate. So no, this isn't surprising at all to me. Like, I think most Americans see, you know, the fake media that CNN actually is.
So, you know, we talked about Darren Seals and, you know, back on the ground in St. Louis and Ferguson when things were happening. But many people in the community have been calling them out, even CNN to their face. Check out this clip the other night where a person goes straight up to Sarah Seidner and lets her know the real deal.
Two nice fellas.
Tell me what you think about.
I like this guy as well.
I think about this is all the press and all the extra I do.
He speaks like a Glaswegian.
Makes this worse.
You think so?
Yes. When people want to protest, they shouldn't do it in front of a police. Courthouse. Like that. You get what the I'm saying?
I feel you, brother.
I mean, I know it was graphic, but it was real.
It sounded pretty standard Glaswegian to me.
It was real, and the people in urban America, that's been the work of us at Black Guns Matter. We're tired. The reality is, people like you on Fox that are putting out a genuine message resonates with that demographic, okay? And now what's happening is, because of all of our smartphones and technology, we see it and we're being more vocal about it. These are our communities that are being manipulated by extreme left media, telling a story that's not accurate, and people that have conservative and libertarian-minded values in those urban centers outnumber the small amount of people that have been manipulating and doing things. And this is again, we've been seeing it for a long time, but now there's more and more people that look like me, that wear hoodies, that wear jeans, that don't always have on a suit and tie. They're being much more vocal about it, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah, every time I see you got your Timberlands in, and you'll do it on Fox News, you'll do it out there in the street, and that's why you've been successful. But tell our audience about this libertarian movement, because you have the work to show. You have the people that are behind.
America's built on what I'm a libertarianism and liberalism. That's what it's built on. The people who are saying that they're liberal now, are, as in Scotland, are not liberal. These are postmodernist Marxists. You call them out. These people are not liberals. I'm a liberal. They are not liberals. They are Marxists pretending to be liberals.
And so I want them to know how you've been so successful at it.
So one, we deal in a very basic premise, and there's a very serious overlap between conservative principles and libertarian principles.
I think the free market, maybe economic side, although I don't know about the Republican Party I know there's parts that are corporatist in the Republican Party. Certainly, our British Conservative Party are corporatist and not free marketeers. They may pander to say that they're free marketeers, but they're corporatists.
Neither one of those are 100% perfect. Nothing is. Right. But basically, we all live by the premise of, don't hurt people, don't touch their stuff, don't bother their
I think he's been listening to Tam Laird. That's exactly what Tam Laird said in Scotland. That's brilliant. But I mean, it's a common mantra amongst libertarianism or libertarians.
I think all Americans, urban, suburban, rural, are there, and that's more of a libertarian, philosophy in that regard. And I think there is that overlap, and we got to create that space because we see that the left is going to become extremely, all of the beefs that they have between their different types of feelings and their issues. Mm-hmm. When it's time to come address our freedom and our liberties, they get on the same page. So I think it's very, how we've been successful is making sure that liberty message is there, but not isolating our brothers and sisters in the conservative movement as well, because we got to get organized. They have all of the media. Fox is holding it down, but we in round 11, and it ain't much time left. So we got to organize, and those have to be liberty-based principles.
Maj, a lot of people don't know this about you, but you go around the country and you teach people gun safety. I mean, a lot of people talk about Chicago, Philly, Baltimore, and how to get control of those communities, but you go down there and do the work.
You can't, listen, if you call yourself a conservative, all of these conservatives that we see all over the television, right? If you don't see them actually doing work in black communities, white communities, Asian communities, brown communities, poor communities where it's needed the most, right? They're just talking. And it's no disrespect. No, actually it is. It is disrespect. If you're talking and not doing, no participation in me, I don't need you to really talk, So we have to be there. These are the areas where leftist policies, especially in regard to gun control, which isn't about safety, have attacked and hamstring those communities. Our work at Black Guns Matter is going there, educating the people, getting them to vote in a different direction, more in alignment with their constitutional and human rights, especially as it pertains to the Second Amendment. And these classes are free to all, So we just love that everybody's continued to support. This message is for all Americans, but we have to do the work, especially around this violence issue. We have to do it in the areas, boots on the ground, where it's needed the most.
The brother that's doing the work, the great Miles Torre. Thanks, man.
Yeah, good guy. Well done, Miles. Excellent. Hi there. Hi, Marion. Hi there. How you doing? I'll just pop this out, shall we? Can't wait for this. Pop out chat. Hi, guys. Hi, Emilyn. How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Let's go and see the next one. Friend sent me this. Thank you, Maria.
We all know, but still pay insufficient.
So, the Great Reset and the World Economic Forum are they are a non-governmental entity who is part of the globalist cabal. So anything that's coming through this, I would suspect, are part of the overall globalist agenda.
Attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a...
Well, I would suggest that the cyber security is a major issue then, isn't it?
Major cyber attack.
It'd be interesting to see who's going to get blamed for this cyber attack, maybe not the globalists.
To use the COVID-19 crisis as a timely opportunity to reflect on the lessons the cybersecurity community can draw and improve our preparedness for a potential cyber pandemic. We all
know. I'm trying to read politically between the lines here. So is he saying that the globalists have got an agenda and there may be some way of actually taking down the infrastructure, the computing infrastructure in the West as well on the back of this pandemic? Oh, I mean, really, honestly. Gad sad, Gad. So this is the nonsense that the SJWs and we Nippy and the Greens are coming out with, the stuff that Gad's just about to talk about. So let's
Allah has given us everything, like food.
I give my food from the ground, thank you.
Hi everybody, this is Gad Sad. I hope that your Sunday is coming along nicely. A few minutes ago I posted the following list regarding progressive mindset when it comes to...
Progressivism is not liberalism. Progressivism came out of the Frankfurt School, and this is postmodernist Marxist. Stop calling it liberal. It's anything but liberal.
A wide range of issues dealing with public safety, and so I thought I would share them here with you. So, progressive mindset. Number one, borders are racist, national...
So this is not... Although this is getting pumped through the universities, this is coming from the globalist cabal.
Walls are white supremacy. Number two, defend the police as it engages in structural racism.
So basically they want open borders. I don't have an open door to my house. I don't believe in open borders. Nicola Sturgeon believes in open borders. So does the Conservative Party, the Liberals, the Labour Party. Every one of these parties are globalists that are on, including the Greens, are globalist parties. So all of them support this absolute nonsense that's getting pumped out by the globalists.
Supremacy. Number two, racist national walls are white supremacy.
So having nation states is white supremacy, but other countries can have their own protection of their states by not allowing open doors. But we have to be, our liberal democracy has to be overtaken so we can bring in this new authoritarianism, which is getting pumped through the postmodernist Marxists and the Islamists, as well as the globalists who sit above these ideologically. So let's just look at this. So white supremacy just means a free liberal democracy. I think that's what you should take from the word white supremacy. That's what they mean by white supremacy, the Marxists do.
National walls are white supremacy. So, progressive mindset. Number one, borders are racist. National walls are white supremacy. Number two, defend the police as it engages in structural racism.
So, by protecting, by not allowing crimes, that's now described as racism as well. So they're now just describing anything as racism, anything as anti-white. So this is just pure and utter unadulterated anti-white racism. That's what this is. So anybody that's pumping out this is actually by definitions a racist. If you change the word white for black or any other group that they say is a race, which is not a race, it's the human race, then you can see that this is just an underlying racist ideology from the Frankfurt School that's now permeated, which Gad Sad is going to tell you has permeated through the American education system.
Number three, confiscate guns, weaken the Second Amendment because mass shootings are committed by white supremacists.
So again, it's only white people that commit mass shootings, which we know by the statistics is a lie. So this is just again picking out. If you change that to Jews or black people or Asian people, anything you want to change there, you will see that this is just a racist, and it's anti-white this time, but it could be anti-anybody. That this postmodernist Marxist is just a racist ideology that's getting perpetrated by the globalists. This is great. This is all true, and I'll show you how it's coming into Scotland as well by Nicola Sturgeon, the fake nationalist, and Rees-Mogg and the Marxists.
Number four, get rid of cash bail because that process marginalizes communities of colors.
I don't know what cash bail is. I don't know. That's an American thing. We don't have that in the UK.
Number five, eradicate the three strikes law because it is a racist law.
I do agree with eradicating the three strikes law in America as well. I think you should get charged individually unless you're committing the same crime over and over again, if you're like a career criminal and doing something. But three separate strikes, if you've taken a cheeseburger by mistake and that gives you the three strikes and you're convicted of theft for something petty, I don't believe you should spend the rest of your life in prison. I totally agree with that.
Number six, refrain from prosecuting countless felonies because the U.S. judicial system is built on white supremacy.
So regardless of whether it's an ethnic minority judge or the underlying premise is that a judicial system that tries to be as fair as possible is now just white supremacist. So it's just racism. This is just racism. This is just saying that we hate the liberal democracies and we're wanting to supplant it with this postmodernist Marxist ideology that is basically to help the globalist. And this is to take any attention away from the globalists. The SJWs are just a tool for the globalists, and that's why we, Nippy and Moby, are actually working with the globalists hand in hand.
Number 7, eradicate the death penalty even for repeat child killers because innocence and systemic racism.
I don't believe in the state killing anybody, so we don't have that in the UK, and I don't believe that anyway. You could have life imprisonment for people who commit horrendous acts, but it still gives opportunity if there's mistakes made in the judicial system, which there are mistakes made by the judicial system. It's an imperfect system, but it's better. It's a more just system than anything else. Then that's better. But if there's people who are from an ethnic minority background who have been wrongly charged, or even people who are from the indigenous background who have been wrongly charged, then there must be a proper appeals procedure in there so that these people are not charged and compensated if they've been wrongly charged.
Number 8, severity of a crime is judged based on the racial makeup of the perpetrator and the victim because systemic racism.
So they're just saying systemic racism for anything. So if there was I saw something on YouTube, this African American killing a white child, but that's not described as racism, but it's only racism if it happens against somebody else by a white person. So again, they want one rule for one for another, and the fact that they don't see that as racism is probably just racist in itself. So this is the angle that they're going for.
In doing so,
same with the hate speech bill in Scotland. That is just a racist bill against only white people, and white men and white women as two separate entities in Scotland are ethnic minorities now as well.
A progressive judicial system akin to Sharia law, and in the
So they're trying to now bring in Sharia law, which is barbaric. It's a barbaric system. Sharia law, absolutely barbaric. Death penalty, killing non-believers, jailing women who have been raped because they had sex outside marriage, allowing having sex with children. I mean, killing homosexuals, killing apostates. This is state sanctioned under Sharia. Just absolutely barbaric.
Parasitic mind, right here. I discuss the similarities between a progressive view of the judicial system and Sharia law.
My God. So they both obviously are abusive systems. Then, so these are deliberately race-based or anti-groups type of systems. So both of these, although I don't know how the SJWs, because under Sharia law they want to kill homosexuals, and under the SJW they want to protect homosexuals. That's going to be a major contention point between both groups.
Number 9, the penal system is antiquated because a criminal is really responding to the harsh environment that she is faced. Example, white supremacy.
I mean, it's just anti-white. It's a racist ideology.
So rehabilitate, don't punish. And it is,
I do believe in rehabilitating as well.
Not hyperbolic to state that 99% of my progressively liberal friends and
you're not progressive and liberal. You're either liberal or you're progressive, which is Marxist. It's from the Frankfurt School. The progressive movement came from the Frankfurt School and infused through the, Columbia University, throughout the American education system. That's how it happened.
Colleagues support.
And from Paris as well.
Slowly we inch.
They're trying to now, with wee Nippy. Oh, look at this. Oh, look. Vote dank. Both votes dank. So, Moby is one to bring in the always want to bring in the future. So here we go, the foxhole again. SNP to force Black Lives Matter inspired anti-racist, which is just anti-white propaganda on school children. Nicola Sturgeon and Moby and the Marxists have revealed plans for anti-racist lessons, forcing children to consider the country's colonialist past. This is what Moby and the Green Party proposed, as well as Wee Nippy. Proposal inspired by the Black Lives Matter, which is a Marxist movement. They're not postmodernist Marxists, they're just Marxists. The party's manifesto ahead of the elections next month singles out Black Lives Matter, praising the organisation for shining a powerful spotlight on continued racial injustice and race-based violence. There was 30 people killed under the riots from Antifa and Black Lives Matter, and the need for countries to face their colonial history. Well, that's very good, but there's other countries that have had a colonial history as well. Is everybody going to face it, or is this just more anti-white propaganda? I'm responding to racism, not actually wanting to promote it, but that's fine. So at least we know that Nicola Sturgeon was correct, that she is not a nationalist. She is basically an SJW. She's a postmodernist Marxist as well, which is different from Georgie Porgy Galloway, who is an actual underlying Marxist. So he would be more in line with the BLM sort of movement. The document sees the party's pledge to fund and develop of an online programme on Scotland. Now, I don't know how they're going to do this, because obviously it was Africans who sold other Africans, African Muslims and non-Muslims, who sold and profited from the sale of Africans in the transatlantic slave trade, who were then transported. And one of the other things that I didn't know, because obviously the intersectional types are pushing this narrative, is that not only were the slave traders in Africa and slave owners, but also in the United States there was African slave owners and slave masters and things like that. So other Africans in other parts of America were actually slave owners as well, which I didn't know until very recently either. So not only were they selling the slaves and encapsulating, and obviously Islam promotes slavery and sex slavery as well. And raping of children, that in America they were also doing it. I don't know if I can get this guy's up. Black first slave owner was black. So don't forget, this was common. Before the transatlantic slave trade, there was already slavery in Africa. The first, this is from Unreal Facts. Make this bigger. The first American slave owner was black. Those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves. Abraham Lincoln. Without a doubt, one of the darkest chapters in American history would be that of slavery. Slaves were black. I don't like using African people from Africa. Were bought and sold like cattle, obviously by other Africans, and then they made the profit on the selling of slaves in Africa. I believe there's actually statues to slave traders in Africa, of the actual slave traders. Were bought and sold like cattle and were forced to work their entire lives for their owners. There was no limitations on age, gender or hours they worked, but slavery was vital to the economy of the southern states in the US. However, slavery was not always part of colonial American scenery, and was started by a former indentured servant, an African man who read correctly the first African slave owner was of African descent. Prior to 1655, the colonies in the United States had indentured servants. This differed greatly to slavery in many areas. Indentured servants usually had a contract of 4 to 7 years of service where they would provide food, would be provided food, accommodation, clothing in return for labour. Upon the completion of the service, most were given land, a cow, arms, clothes, and a year's supply of free corn. They were essentially not owned by the owners, instead entering a contract with the landowners in return for work and freedom. Slavery, on the other hand, had no such benefits. Now you're probably wondering what happened in 1655 for all this to change. How was an African man became the first African slave owner? In 1621, an African man by the name of Anthony Johnson arrived from Africa to Virginia to be an indentured servant, not a slave. He was captured by this was Muslim slave traders in his native Angola. So the Muslims had been right down, obviously, enslaving Africans and selling them. Obviously, Prophet Muhammad was a slave trader as well. And so they were sold as a slave. By 1635, he had completed his service contract, and by the late 1640s, he had acquired 250 acres of land. As a landowner, he started using indentured servants himself, acquiring 5. In 1654, one of his servants, an African man by the name of John Casser, was due for release from his service. Johnson decided to extend John Casser In 1654, one of his servants, an African man by the name of John Casser, was due for release from his service. Johnson decided to extend his service, and Casser left to work with Robert Parker, who was a free white man. A free European man. The year Johnson sued Parker in Northampton Court, and in 1655 the court ruled that Johnson could hold Casson indefinitely. The court gave sanctions for Africans to hold slaves of their own, I don't like using the word race, of their own ethnicity. This made Anthony Johnston the first African slave owner, and John Casson the first slave in the American colonies. It was 15 years before the Colonial Assembly granted free whites, Europeans, Africans and Indians permission to own African slaves. Wow. I don't know if Wee Nippy's going to teach this. I don't know if this is part of our BLM Marxist agenda. We'll continue with this. We will create a new programme of anti-racism education, which just means anti-white. Is a racist anti-white ideology in schools, including support for teachers, professional development, allowing every school to access high-quality anti-white racist education. To track progress, we will develop... So this is just stop policing by Wee Nippy. What you guys say? What? Read the patriarchy bad. Go Chicago. There's mass shootings every weekend, and they ain't white. Yeah, there's a huge black on black or African on African situation that's happening just now in Chicago. That's quite right. There's hundreds of people being killed. They have done away with cash bail in New York. Most charges you get bail straight away. I don't know if that happens in the UK. I'm not sure how that works, not having been in court here. It's always been the case. Racism always goes one way. Yeah, and I don't think it matters who the object of the racism is, but it's pretty bad when you've got your own people. That's to me would be like some sort of traitor that Nicola Sturgeon is, never mind a nationalist. What you say, Miriam? She'll redact. Very good. I'm voting Libertarian on the 1st, and I'm tempted to go for the Family Party on the 2nd. I would suggest you don't go, although I really like Richard Lucas. I'll come to that in a second, but I wouldn't go for the I would go 1 and 2 for the Libertarian Party. Although I do like Richard, I think Richard the Family Party need to get involved in other parties. To me, the Family Party are correct, but they're a sort of pressure group. They've got some good policies, but they're not a political group in themselves. Let's skip on here, and we'll have a wee look at this. I saw this girl today. There she is there.
No.
I was having a wee look at her earlier on today.
We'd like to invite you to look beyond the tired routine of political debate. We've got something
I don't
new
know. So she sounds she's been in a private school.
to bring to Scottish politics.
Very plummy middle class accent.
We offer fresh perspectives that could help solve deeply ingrained problems. Policies that would help people of all ages flourish in their path through life.
Right, I really see when somebody's doing a political advert, I'm not interested in all this sort of waffle. I want to know exactly what you're doing. What are the policies and what am I voting for?
Families are the building blocks of a healthy society.
Well, I don't disagree.
When family life starts to break down, the negative consequences are very far-reaching.
Don't forget that's what we nippy. All of the 5, maybe some of the people in the Conservative Party, but the other 4, the SNP, Labour, the Greens, and the Greens and Liberal and Democrats. All of these are on the same agenda, and I'm going to do something in demographics coming up in the next couple of days.
Strong families make for a strong nation. Encouraging stable family life should be a priority for every government.
And it's not a priority because Nicola Sturgeon's an SJW. We already know that the BLM and the Marxists don't want to have a stable government in Scotland.
The evidence clearly shows that marriage is a crucial factor in sustaining relationships through life's challenges.
I think that's great, but I think if you can't get a woman to go on a date, then it's more of a problem actually going out and dating. And I think we should encourage going out on dates and getting to know people, going on a few dates and actually trying to build up a relationship and before it starts to get physical. And that way you actually then start to develop a strength in your underlying relationship before you even get to the marriage stage. I think the marriage is further down the road. I think we should be looking at romance and dating first before we start to talk about the marriage side of it.
We would promote marriage.
I don't know how you... Well, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying I would be promoting proper relationships. I don't even know if marriage in itself is required. And if we're going to promote marriage, we need to actually change a lot of the things that happen in courts with marriages so it's not as complex for situations where relationships break down.
Scotland faces some seemingly intractable problems.
I don't think they're intractable. I think we've got bad politicians and that's why they look intractable.
Poverty, drugs.
Yeah, so we need a greater degree of entrepreneurship. I think that's what we need.
Drug and alcohol abuse.
That comes down to freedom of choice, doesn't it? But yeah, it's not advisable.
Youth mental health issues and cycles of crime. Family breakdown fuels these and many more. It's not the whole story, but encouraging stable family life is an avenue that needs to be explored because prevention is better than cure. Bringing up children is an invaluable contribution to society.
I'm on board here.
Government should recognise this by easing the financial burdens on parents.
Totally agree.
Many parents of very young children would love the opportunity to stay at home with them in their early years. Our policies would make that choice possible. Families should be free to bring up their children according to their own values.
Well, it depends what your values are. I'm not okay with certain people's values, to be brutally honest. Although I'm a libertarian, if your values are violent and extreme, then I'm not okay with that. So I'm not okay with just getting carte blanche to whatever your values are, then I'm okay with that. That's not where I stand at all. Although I do believe in your own individual liberty.
Schools need resources, facilities, and good teachers, but they need much more than...
Well, we now know that our teachers are, through Nicola Sturgeon and Rees-Mogg, they're going to be indoctrinating our children into Black Lives Matter and anti-white racism, teaching them to hate themselves, and talking about one-sided aspects of probably colonialism and the slave trade, not giving them the full picture.
Than that, the authority of teachers needs to be respected, enabling them to create an orderly and safe environment for our children. Parents should not need to worry that their children would be force-fed controversial and sometimes dangerous ideologies.
Yeah, well, she's not wrong, is she? We've just actually pinpointed what that is and what the SNP are trying to do, so she's obviously a clever young lady.
Whilst at school, we value life itself, making the womb a place of safety and...
the womb a place. Ladies, what do you think of your womb being a place of safety? What's happening there? Well, how can we make your womb safe, ladies? Don't forget the rimming. Oh dear. We've got to make your womb safe. Did you see the leaders debate last week? I wasn't watching the leaders debate because I knew it would be a joke. We'll go over that if you want. All the more reason not to vote for the Lib Lab coin. Exactly, mate. Let's finish with this. So your womb's got to be a safe place, ladies.
And ensuring that later years in life are free from pressure towards euthanasia.
I actually believe, but obviously, as I said, with the libertarian aspect, depends on what the circumstances are for euthanasia. That's an issue.
Value freedom of speech. People shouldn't be afraid to express their views publicly. We don't want...
unless you're attacked by Peter Smith, he's going to call you a racist bully.
It's a battle of the sexes. We don't want political debate to be dominated by competing special interest groups, be it religion, races, genders, or sexualities. We seek to create a unified vision of Scotland.
Which is all very nice. I don't disagree.
Looking for the common good of all.
What they really want to do is start to fold these parties into other parties. You're only going to get political critical mass if you get to a stage. All these parties are going to get hundreds of votes. Until you start getting thousands of votes and getting onto the stage, the people that will start to get penetration are going to be the Alba Party and Georgie Porgy. Georgie Porgy. We're like, I saw Georgie Porgy. I'll get to Georgie Porgy in a minute.
Other policy areas, we enter into these debates too, not with a preconceived stance, but with an open mind, looking for policies in the best interests of the Scottish people. The fundamental values that underpin our society.
She sounds so middle class, it's great. I bet she went to private school.
Are being eroded. We will present a better vision in the heart of the political system. Why not become a part of that better future?
There's Georgie. Richard.
Tell you something remarkable about the Scottish Family Party. We have Unionists and Nationalists in our ranks. While the other party...
but see, this is where I was going to go about the Globalists, and I'll come to the Globalists and which parties are Globalist or not. So you've got Nationalists and Unionists, that's great. So where does the Family Party actually stand on these issues? Is the Family Party just another Globalist shell party? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to where does the Family Party stand on the Unionist or the Nationalist side of the debate, because you have to have a side. You have to have a side.
Parties obsess over the Constitution, we give priority to our conscience. Don't let the existing Hollywood parties or the media tell you what matters most. Vote according to your priorities. It takes courage to stand up for what you believe in. We will never cower in the face of aggressive and hysterical opposition.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's great. And I think Richard Lucas is a great guy as well, a good politician, and I don't disagree with the vast majority of what's been said there. But the family party need to be getting critical mass and change. They have to change into something else. They have to morph into something else. Get the Christian party, join up with the Christian party, or start to get the family party into groups within the other parties. The family party, although great, are not going to get any political mileage, unfortunately. Although the things that they're saying are correct, they need to roll up. They sound like a moderately conservative group, and they should be doing that within. They could do it even in the libertarian side. There's nothing in the libertarian side that they're saying that isn't there, but they sound more actual traditional conservatives, traditionally conservative. Whereas the Conservative Party are just basically the part of them, like the side that Ruth Davis is on, are just simps for the gimps.
But we'll make our case plainly and powerfully. We would be a strong voice in the Scottish Parliament. We'd argue for the straightforward, positive values that are currently being ignored, rejected.
I don't think it would be a bad thing if Richard was in the Scottish Parliament. I don't think he's going to get the votes to actually get into the Scottish Parliament, but everything he's put out over the last number of months has been on the money, and it's been very interesting. And he seems like a very competent politician. He's just not going to get elected.
And demonised on a daily basis. It's time to vote for what you believe in.
And that's why I'll be voting for the Scottish Libertarian Party just now, till we get an alternative.
That's why we asked you to give your second vote to the Scottish Family Party. Thanks.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I would vote both votes for the Scottish Libertarian Party if you've got it. Bojo Spear. Bojo Spear. Don't forget rimming. Laugh my ass off. Your womb has got to be secured. We've got to secure the womb. Secure the womb. Oh dear. What else have I got? What else have we seen? Oh, let's go back to this. Oh. So, this person, DJ, seems about to do the big cringe, I'm afraid. Need to get private consultation for the NHS to stop treating me like a joke. I'm not in the best position at the moment, not expecting much, but anything helps. This person's looking to transition, I think, transition help organised. So obviously people who want to change their genders, you should look sympathetically on if that's what this person, I don't actually know who DJ is, but if you want to help, then there's a link here. If you want to go on the Guerilla TV, there's a link to actually help them transition. So there's Curtin. Now, I would vote. I think David Curtin's an excellent politician, and he seems like a really nice fella. He seems to know which side's up as well. I would definitely work with him. I don't know if he's a libertarian liberal, but he's certainly sound on most of the things that he says. He's certainly a sound politician. I'd love to know where he is on the political compass. Well, let's have a wee look at this. There's something I want to see. Oh, where's Tam Laird when you need him? Oh, there he is there. This is great. So this is the leader of the Scottish Libertarian Party, and this is just absolutely brilliant. Do you honestly think this guy can run your life better than you can? Neither does he. That's why he's a libertarian. That's absolutely brilliant. So Tam Laird running in the Edinburgh Central and Lothian region. Lovely fella as well, Tam. He does look like he was in Flash Gordon, but he is a super smashing fellow. And will get us out of lockdown and will not be following the globalist agenda. So that's why it would be good to vote for young Thomas here. So let's have a wee look at this. This is the great... This is...
For letting them go out. You've got to blame the parents as well. For letting them go out and hang around with these lads and let them go out at daft times, innit? Like, you walk around here, yeah, about 11, 12 o'clock at night, you see 13, 14-year-old girls walking about in tight clothes and...
Are those girls asking for it? Do you think those girls asking for it?
You've got to blame the parents as well. For letting them go out and hang around with these lads and let them go out at daft times, innit? Like, you walk around here, yeah, about 11, 12 o'clock at night, you see 13, 14-year-old girls walking about in tight clothes and...
Are those girls asking for it? Do you think those girls asking for it?
So that's very interesting. Year-old girls are asking for it.
People in there from the local Oxford community, people in there from the local Pakistani Muslim Oxford community, who very clearly, categorically said on there, on more than one occasion, that people knew. There is no way, if you actually read the reports of what happened just in the Oxford case, forget Rochdale, forget Derby, forget Telford, just look at what's happened recently in Oxford, and rightly so, the men got life imprisonment in many cases. If you actually listen to the people in Oxford...
Jimmy Savile.
If you just let me...
Oh, he's doing a bit of what... I don't know who this character is, but he's doing a bit of whataboutery. If you want to talk about Jimmy Savile, I would quite happily talk about it. But what he's doing is a bit of whataboutery and not addressing the underlying issue.
If you actually listen to the people in Oxford and what they say about this issue, it's a lot. It gives us cause for a lot of reflection on what has and hasn't been done.
But if your prophet... was a sexual slave trader and had sex with a 9-year-old girl because she had hit puberty apparently, and then you're promoting that in your religion, then obviously these things are going to happen, aren't they? It's the most misogynistic thing. I mean, all the SJWs, wait till I put my lights on here. I mean, again, the SJWs are wanting to talk about misogyny and Islam, and protecting Islam, and Islam is the most misogynistic thing in the UK just now.
Actually, as Muslims, we have something to offer, as Elias said. No one is saying that this is...
It's a fascist, totalitarian, certainly authoritarian, if not fascist, ideology and political ideology as well.
An Islamic issue.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting there... with a headscarf on, all covered up, because Muslim men would think you're asking for it. I think that was the term they were using, if you hadn't got your head covered.
No one is saying that these men did it in the name of Islam.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely saying that they are doing it in the name of Islam, 100%.
Or as Muslims.
As Muslims in the name of Islam, yes, that's correct. That's exactly what's happening.
What I am
No. That's not true. That's Talia or Talia. So I'm now my thought process is up against this woman, because if she's not recognising what's in her religion, obviously with the daft headscarf, then she's the issue.
What I am saying is that research that's being done, the evidence is clear. The evidence is emerging.
The Islam's a child rapist death cult.
The evidence is saying that this particular model of grooming, not all child abuse, not all paedophiles, not all criminals are Muslim. Of course not.
Oh, the Muslim men are targeting and raping non-Muslims, not even just Sikhs, Hindus, Christians. It's happened in Pakistan with Khan, the president, allowing that to happen, and yet he's telling us that we should have blasphemy laws against his prophet.
But what the research is saying is this particular model of on-street gang grooming is being perpetrated by men of a similar background. That, for me, is
Muslims.
Something that we simply cannot ignore. This is not about apologising. No one is apologising. This is about...
Oh, you should be. You should be.
Standing up for something that is
but maybe they
unjust.
don't. Maybe they don't have the access to the green room at the BBC.
Who doesn't have access?
The people who are standing on street corners.
What do you mean? Sorry.
What I mean is, you say, look, this specific form, this particular way of being involved in child sex is peculiar to this group of people. And what I'm...
But the Prophet Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl, if you're saying that the Prophet Muhammad was infallible, he was the ideal person, and you're a literalist, not an extremist, a literalist, and they take that forward to today, then it's okay for you to have sex with children. So that it's intrinsic in the religion.
What I'm saying to you is there's another group of people, Jimmy Savile.
Yeah, which were all illegal before. It's not promoted in Western societies. With this, they go to jail or should go to jail if they're not being politically protected.
Right, and how much coverage has the Jimmy Savile, the white...
Yeah, because we know that the globalist agenda, through the open doors in the middle of a pandemic, people are coming in from the war-torn country of France and allowed to come in the middle of a pandemic. Because obviously the Conservative Party have signed us up to the Barcelona process, the Union of the Mediterranean and the UN Compact and refugees in Marrakesh, who are not yet refugees.
The parallel isn't with...
Yeah. So let's look at this.
You don't need to speak to secretary. You don't need to speak to the secretary.
You are being asked to leave. Okay.
And I don't really need to leave because this is...
But you're causing an issue.
I'm not.
So this is this lady asked a question about grooming gangs in Oldham Council. Responded immediately.
You have to leave. I've been told.
So they're now telling you to leave or be quiet or calling you a racist when they're actually talking about this. So the powers that be, including the Conservative Party and especially the Labour Party, are actually protecting the people who are perpetrating this crime, including Nicola Sturgeon, me, Nippy and Moby.
Only cause you an issue, you do have to leave.
Right.
I won't have a problem with physically removing somebody from this forum.
So they're now dragging you out. The police are now dragging you out for asking questions about Muslim child rape gangs.
I personally won't.
Right,
Okay? So I can be nice. For the time being, or we can go out nice and calm.
For a council and get policing to threaten you.
Okay? You've obviously caused a bit of an issue. Alright?
I haven't, I've just asked a question.
Is this your partner?
I have no idea.
Okay, right. Is he with you?
She didn't cause an
Nobody here
issue.
with me.
Right, okay.
I can bear witness to that.
So this is Oldham Council meeting on the 9th of the 11th, 2019, shut down after questions resuming. So that's very interesting. There's Andy No, attempted murder. NYPD news, when cops in Brooklyn stopped a car this AM for running a red light. The driver threw a chemical at our officer before speeding off, stopped again. The driver threw a lit Molotov cocktail at cops and fled before crashing. The man was arrested and more Molotov cocktails were recovered. So don't vote for the Green Party. Robertson.
There's not a problem in this country. There's not a problem in this country.
Why are you focusing on certain incidents?
No, what you're doing is, rather than listening to the point, you just want to shout racist, which is what's happening in this country for 15, 20 years.
Because you are.
No, what have I said? What have I said that's racist?
You are.
So, as Peter, that's the shutdown. It's not to actually address the underlying issue. It's not that Muslims raping non-Muslims, not just Christian white children. There's Sikhs and Hindus and Buddhists and other ethnic. It's a deliberate targeting of non-Muslims. This is not a race-based thing. They want to shut down this by just calling anybody else who actually tries to address the issue a racist. Mr. Sawar didn't call me a racist, to be honest. It was that Peter, whatever his name, Smith.
Tommy,
you're so weak.
Tommy,
But this is coming from the globalists. This is not coming, although she's got the platform of being on the television, this is coming from the globalists, which the Labour Party or a globalist party, a GIMP party, the liberal, undemocratic Democrats, the Green Party, Marxists and the Moby and the Marxists, kidding on the environmentalists, and who else? The Conservative Party with a large part of our corporatist globalists.
You've got nothing to back up on.
do you?
Tommy, let her calm.
Just shouting racist to somebody. A, it's the human race, so technically to be racist you would have to discriminate against a different species, because people who don't look like you are in a different species. But this isn't about race, this is about an ideology, and a political ideology as well.
You're getting
What
really
have I
heated
said that's
up.
racist?
You are a racist.
What have I
So they just keep repeating it, you are a racist. That's what that Diddy Peter Smith said. Racist, that's racist. I mean, no, you're a racist. That's racist. And he was getting all, eyes were going, oh. So it was almost as if he was sort of indoctrinated. And that's what the SNP and the Greens are going to do with your children. This is what they're going to do. They're going to teach your children to hate themselves. That's the agenda.
It's racist.
You're a racist.
What have I said?
I don't think Tommy Robinson is a racist. To be brutally honest, I do believe that he has got ethnic minority friends. I think he's got black. He's already said he's even got Muslim friends. So I don't think that this has anything to do with him disliking other people based on immutable characteristics. But this is the SJWs. This is what the social justice warriors, which we Nippy has obviously been lesbian, intersectional, Marxist, postmodern Marxist feminist. Allegedly, this is the agenda that she's wanting to push. And Gay Moby, who is not produced any. I don't think either one of their actual parents. So this is where the family planning or the family party come in. That we've got a declining birth rate, which I'm going to touch on later on. That we can actually start to go on dates and promote monogamous strong family units. They're wanting to tear that down, them and the SJWs.
Talking about
So there's not a problem in this country.
So that's very interesting as well. Let's see what Nippy's saying. So wee Nippy has managed to get the highest amount of drug deaths. So she's able to kill her own people, taking away rights for people who are going through addiction problems, taking away the support for them, highest number of drug deaths. And obviously I said I didn't think I should talk about Mr. Sarwar and the fact that there's been allegations from within the Scottish Indian community that Mr. Sarwar's father was involved in importing heroin. I don't know any of this, if that's true. And his brother was a cocaine dealer, so I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't got no proof of that, so I'm not sure where they got the family money from in Scotland. I think he came over and said they didn't have any money, so I'm not sure where they actually got the money to set up the cash and carry.
Do you agree with the Health Secretary that in the early stages of this pandemic you failed to recognise?
So not only that did she get the highest number of drugs deaths for her incompetence, she's also managed to kill I don't know how many people for getting the pandemic and putting people from the hospitals into old people's homes. I don't know how many people she managed to kill for her incompetence doing that as well.
We didn't get everything right.
Well, you can say that again.
In terms of social care and care homes and the health sector.
So you managed to get hundreds. I don't know how many people you managed to get killed for getting people out of hospital into the care homes.
Just like I have tried to do, is being open.
Well, you went a bit further than you have. You've generically said that you haven't got everything right. You fail to understand the needs of social care.
We fail to it's not for me to choose her words. We work very closely, but she chooses her words and I'll choose mine. I think.
Is resign or redact? Is redact one of your favourite words?
What she was trying to say, and I know this is what she was trying to say, is it's not that we didn't understand social care. It's that we've never had to understand the complexity of the social care system.
We've had pandemics before. We've had swine flu, bird flu. We've had pandemics before. So this is not, but it's not like this is the first pandemic and, oh, you've done such a great job, Nicola. We've had pandemics before. A, I've not had to get vaccinated. B, I've not had to wear a mask to go in anywhere. Mandated by the state. With you being a wee authoritarian, a wee jumped up Hitler.
In the context of a global pandemic.
Well, more specifically.
I mean, you did manage to get tons of people killed by bringing people out who had got the alleged pandemic, whatever it was, and putting them into care homes.
Most specifically, she said that it was a mistake to move elderly people out of hospitals in the way that you did without taking further precautions to protect them. Do you agree with her on that?
Looking back on that now, with the knowledge we have now and with the benefit of hindsight, yes, but we didn't know all of that then, and that's the key point. You know, a year ago we were hit with an unprecedented situation.
Unprecedented.
We had to act fast, and we had to act without all of the knowledge we have right now. We took the decisions we thought were best.
You've been a whole host of bad decisions since you've been in power. It's been one bad decision after another. I voted for you, so it's not as if I'm saying that I'm not part of the problem, or wasn't part of the problem. I'm glad there's a greater choice in political parties now, because I certainly won't be voting for you or voting for the SNP again, the fake Nationalist Party and the Marxist Green Party.
We put a huge emphasis on infection prevention and control.
Although you got hundreds of people killed by putting people in care homes.
Isolation in care homes, but as we learned more about asymptomatic transmission of the virus, for example, we changed our approach.
But did that cost lives that might otherwise have been saved?
Yes, yes, and just like the drug deaths from her incompetent choices.
The number of care home deaths in Scotland were too high, and
you managed to get people killed, just like in the drugs deaths, because of your incredibly stupid policies and your incompetence in government.
And I want a full public inquiry to look in that.
Oh yeah, I get so excited there from laughing. Are you going to redact that one as well? Just redact.
The number of care home deaths in Scotland were too high, and I want a full public inquiry.
Just redact it. Get the judge to redact everything. Oh, that didn't happen. Oh, it's not happening like this. Oh no.
In detail, but there's no doubt in my mind
that you screwed up.
The number of people who died
was your fault. Your fault, just like the drugs deaths was your fault.
Were too many, and we got some things.
You got it wrong.
And
you got it majorly wrong.
I feel the responsibility of that.
Yeah, you might feel the responsibility, but not taking any responsibility. You should have resigned for your incompetence long before now.
Every single day, and I'm not going to try to shy away from it.
It's now history. It's now down in history that you've actually done this. What else we got? That was good. Thank you, Mr. Sad. Excellent fellow that. Oh, there's Greta. Hello, Greta. How are you? Getting the world to rights. Was that Antifa shirts that you and your family were wearing? Although I'm sure you're going to tell us how you're not politically involved with the globalists.
Greta Thunberg. And I'm not here to make deals.
Oh, you know, hello. Greta for Führer. Hello, Greta, that's good. Not here to make deals. Come on, Greta.
I don't belong to any financial interest.
I thought you were getting a puppet of Soros. Oh, that's what. See, it seems a bit strange that a 19 or a whatever you were, 16, was in front of the United Nations. I don't know many people who are 16 who gets put in front of the United Nations or put in front of governments, and I don't know many 19-year-olds or 16-year-olds that do that unless they've got people in high places puppeting them.
Or political party, so I can't bargain or negotiate. I'm only here to once again remind you of the emergency.
Right, so here we go, Greta. Here we go. I've already done this in my previous one. Previous transition, but here we go. CO2 emissions. So 2017 up to 2000. Where's it go? Oh, it's going to 2040. That's clever. Top. Oh, gee, that's GDP. Renewables. Oh, renewable energy. That's quite interesting. Let's have a look at this. I've not seen this one.
Take it from me, user experience is a satisfying, rewarding, and meaningful.
I think we'll skip ahead here. Wow, look at that. Look at it. Well, I have to say that they're certainly... These are three of the highest polluters. Where's India? So we've obviously got an issue with... Oh, there's India there. India is one of the highest renewable energies. What year's that? China and America are certainly increasing the renewable energy. That's 2017 to 2019. So Brazil, India is quite far behind. Maybe India needs help. United Kingdom is in 5th place for its renewables. So obviously we've still got work to do, but it seems like it's improving. China obviously seems to have been doing quite a lot with the renewable energy. Britain, 5th place. Brazil's doing well, and the United States seem to be moving ahead. In 2005, China became the largest renewable electricity producer with hydroelectric. Obviously, that was the dams. But obviously, comparative to up to it. So unless young Greta goes and speaks to India, USA and China, even the combination of all other polluters doesn't even add up to, it probably just adds up to about the USA in the top, outside the top 4. So Japan, Russia, India, United States and China are the ones that are causing the most pollution, Greta. So I would suggest that this is probably where you want to go and start lecturing them over there, young Greta. I would suggest that you want to go. So even Moby in the Green Party, even if we, Moby and the Marxists became the biggest party in the UK, and we reduced our emissions to 0, we had no cars, electricity was done renewably, we're still not going to make a difference to the overall CO2 levels unless we start terraforming and desalination tanks or salination tanks to reforest the Sahara, for example, or Australia. That's the only way we're going to increase the CO2s being absorbed by an increase in tree growth or plant growth. So that's one idea, but you guys don't seem to be having any ideas about how to do it in such a large scale.
We are in. The crisis that you and your predecessors have created and inflicted upon us.
Oh my God, isn't it? Jesus.
The crisis that you continue to ignore.
I don't think they're ignoring it, Greta. I think that's they may not be advancing as quickly as they could be, or not doing other things that could actually reduce the CO2 by planting more trees, for example. But I don't think they're ignoring it per se. But I mean, it's quite an austere message, isn't it?
I'm here to remind you.
Oh, great! That's great. A young 18-year-old. I'm sure that's going to be great. Carry on.
The promises that you have made to your children and grandchildren, and to tell you that we are not willing to compromise on the very minimum safety.
Has the children elected you as world leader?
Levels that still remain.
I mean, this is back to who the globalists are and what they're doing, and this is what we have to look at: the manipulation of individuals being puppeted by the actual globalist cabal, who are not actually visible to us. So the cabal sits in the background.
The climate and ecological crisis can, unfortunately, no longer be solved within today's systems. According to the current best available science, that's no longer an opinion. That's a fact. And we need to keep this in mind as countries, businesses, and investors now rush forward to present their so-called ambitious climate targets and commitments. The longer we avoid this uncomfortable truth And the longer we pretend that we can solve the climate and ecological emergency without treating it like an emergency, the more precious time we will lose.
Well, Greta, what you want to do is get your wee sailing boat and go to India and then go to China and then go to the USA and start to preach this message, because they're the three major polluters. So it's, a lot of the smaller polluters are already taking renewable steps with renewable energy, and they're already doing that. But even like Scotland cannot solve, or even the UK, unless it's putting pressure on other countries to actually stop them polluting as much and promoting CO2. So you take your wee boat and go over there and actually start to talk to them. There may be things that we can do to actually help them, to actually, like India, we've got great relationships with India, to go and actually help India and with their renewable energy. So I think we should be more than happy to help India and even China with the CCP.
And this is time we do not have. Today we hear nations and leaders all over the world speak of an...
Again, another globalist. Don't forget, Gad Saad said they want to take down borders, so that this is... and unfortunately, the Libertarian Party don't believe in borders as well, so that's the reason, or the main reason I left the Scottish Libertarian Party. So, although they've got some... I would vote for them, the fact that they believe in open borders is a big no-no for me.
Existential climate emergency. And yet, instead of taking the immediate action you would in any emergency, they set up vague, hypothetical, distant targets way into the future. Targets based on loopholes and incomplete numbers. Targets like net zero emissions 2050. Targets that equal surrender. It's like waking up in the middle of the night, seeing your house on fire, and then deciding to...
Oh my God. Have you ever thought of acting, Greta? The only way that you're going to solve this problem is if you address the major polluters.
Wait 10, 20 or 30...
So even talking to us, even talking to the EU, it's only going to marginally make a change when the major polluters, unless you're planting more trees and they actually say to them to plant more trees. But you, Greta, could actually do something and actually go and plant a tree and be seen to plant a tree and have a plant a tree day. That would make a lot more sense if you, rather than just saying what you're saying, go and actually plant a tree and have a plant a tree day. September the 14th, no, making the spring. Something like March sometime, plant a tree day. So they've got the summer to grow.
30 years before you call the fire department, while labelling those trying to wake people up alarmists.
I don't think you're an alarmist. I think you're a bit of a dramatist. But as I said, you may be right. But the only thing that's going to happen is that you won't be able to solve anything until you actually speak to the major polluters, which are the USA, China and India.
Understand that the world is complex and that change doesn't happen overnight. But you've now had more than 3 decades of blah, blah, blah.
Well, they haven't blah, blah, blahed, but they haven't potentially done as much. But there are moves forward. But I wouldn't just say it was blah, 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 but they probably haven't advanced as quickly as they could have.
How many more do you need? Because when it comes to facing the climate emergency, the world is still in a state of complete...
Plant more trees, Greta, plant more trees.
...denial. The justice for the most affected people in the most affected areas is being systematically denied. Even though we welcome every single climate initiative, the targets and commitments being presented and discussed today are very far from being enough. And the time for small steps in the right direction is long gone. If we are to have at least a small chance of avoiding the worst consequences of the climate and ecological emergency, this has to change. Because you still say one thing and then do the complete opposite. You speak of saving nature while locking in policies of further destruction for decades to come. You promise to not let future generations down while creating new loopholes, basing your pledges on...
Take personal responsibility, Greta, and plant a tree. Go and plant a tree. That's it. Have a plant a tree day. You have got a platform. If you want to do this, you can actually have a big enough platform to have a Greta plant a tree day, or name it after me, Valentine Plant a Tree Day.
Of the cheating tactics that got us into this mess in the first place. If the commitment of lowering all our emissions by 70, 68, or even 55% by 2030 actually meant they aimed to reduce the emissions on that level, that would be a great start. But that is unfortunately...
It's a two-sided conundrum. Reducing emissions and planting more trees will soak up the CO2, because obviously plant life grows from actually intaking the CO2. So you can do it both ways. So then it'll go faster if you actually plant more trees.
Not the case. And since the general level of public awareness continues to be so low, our leaders can still get away with almost anything. No one is held accountable. It's like a game. Whoever is best at packaging and selling their message wins. As it is now, we can have as many meetings and summits as we want, but unless we treat the climate and ecological emergency like an emergency, no sufficient changes will be achieved. What we need, to begin with, is to implement annual binding carbon budgets.
No, I think we need to plant more trees and reduce CO2 emissions, continue to reduce CO2 emissions. The UK apparently have reduced CO2 emissions by 50%, which is quite incredible. So I think we should just continue in the UK to do this. Wee Nippy's done quite a good job in getting renewables in Scotland as well. That's certainly something she has done well.
Based on the current best available science. And right now, more than ever, we are desperate for hope. But what is hope?
I'm here.
For me, hope is not more empty assurances that everything will be all right, that things are being taken care of, and that we don't need to worry. For me, hope is the feeling that keeps you going, even though all odds may be against you. For me, hope comes from action, not just words. And for me, hope is telling it like it is, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable that may be.
Yeah, go get your boat, go to India, China, and I'm sure they will absolutely love you in the USA. Get over there, Greta, you tell them, babe.
And again, I'm not telling you what to do.
Sorry, we were all young ones.
After all, safeguarding future living conditions and preserving life on Earth as we know it is voluntary.
Yeah, I know, but you are correct up to a point. There could be more done, and I don't disagree with you.
The choice is yours to make.
I don't think it's ours to make. I think it's the Chinese Communist Party, the Indian government, and Weekend the Bernie president in the United States. I think that's who you need to talk to. They're the major polluters. So as we can see by this map. So, let's see what else we got. Thank you, Greta. That was very kind. Oh, here we go. So let's start with. This is in the CNBC, and this is the great President Donald Trump talking about the globalists. Now I'm going to go into what the globalist parties are in Scotland.
7 decades of history have passed through this hall in all of their richness and drama.
Don't forget, nobody elected the United Nations. So Humza Useless wants to import legislation from the United Nations, and nobody ever actually elected the United Nations. So they don't have a democratic mandate to producing any laws in Scotland either. Just like the EU, non-elected, EU Commission, non-elected.
Where I stand, the world has heard from presidents.
The globalists the globalists want a technocracy, not an actual democracy, or don't want us to have democratic accountability. That's maybe why they're supporting Black Lives Matter and Antifa. What are you guys saying? Bye bye, Greta. Baby, bye, goodbye. Thank you. My ears are bleeding. Enough. Desperate for dope. I've a good meme. She's getting hot dogs slapped off her face right now. Please conserve this. We have more. Can we move on, please? Kind of having enough of her. Oh dear. Oh, my baby gorillas are all Trump support, all Greta supporters. Buy a dish plate, plant a tree. Yeah, that's it, plant a tree. The climate changes every 300, 400 years. Plant an effing tree. Greta. Climate locks down and coming if we let them get away with it, this. But don't forget, there is an issue with CO2, but you can take personal responsibility and just go out and plant a tree. Obviously plant it somewhere there's potential other trees, not like in the middle of a motorway, but you can actually take personal responsibility if you want to do something practical. But yeah, so let's go back to the great Donald Trump.
And premiers at the height of the Cold War, we have seen the foundation of nations. We have seen the ringleaders of revolution. We have beheld saints who inspired us with hope, rebels who stirred us with passion, and heroes who emboldened us with courage. All here to share plans, proposals, visions, and ideas on the world's biggest stage. Like those who met us before, our time is one of great contests, high stakes, and clear choices. The essential divide that runs all around the world and throughout history is once again thrown into stark relief. It is the divide between those whose thirst for control deludes them into thinking they are destined to rule over others, and those people and nations who want only to rule themselves. I have the immense privilege of addressing you today as the elected leader of a nation that prizes liberty, independence, and self-government above
Not in me, nippy with one.
all. The United States, after having spent over $2.5 trillion since my election to completely rebuild our great military, is also by far the world's most powerful nation. Hopefully, it will never have to use this power. Americans know that in a world where others seek conquest and domination, our nation must be strong in wealth, in might, and in spirit. That is why the United States vigorously defends the traditions and customs that have made us who we are. Like my beloved country, each nation represented in this hall has a cherished history, culture, and heritage that is worth defending and celebrating, and which gives us our singular potential and strength. The free world must embrace its national foundations. It must not attempt to erase them or replace them. Looking around and all over this large, magnificent planet, the truth is plain to see. If you want freedom, take pride in your country. If you want democracy, hold on to your sovereignty. And if you want peace, love your nation. Wise leaders.
Well, we know that Nicola Sturgeon isn't a nationalist. She's already said that. She's on the record for saying she's not a nationalist. She doesn't believe in this. She's just a globalist show.
Always put the good of their own people and their own country first. The future does not belong to globalists. The future belongs to patriots The future belongs to sovereign and independent nations who protect their citizens, respect their neighbors, and honor the differences that make each country special and unique.
So let's see. Sorry for the dead time there. That's quite interesting. Let's see if we got it in Google. So they're basically hiding the fact that she's been at the Council on Foreign Relations, Nicola Sturgeon. There she is there. So the Council on Foreign Relations, just like we saw with the Economic Forum, is another globalist shell entity. And let me come back to that. I saw Georgie Porgy. Oh, Nigel says he agrees with Piers Morgan was right about Meghan Markle. Government whipping up US-style culture war to divide communities. I think that's a bit of a cheek, isn't it? What Labour MP warns. Maya Oppenheim. The government is launching an American-style culture war to divide communities, and the Labour Party must not be complicit in the inflammatory rhetoric. A Labour MP warns. Zara Sultana, is that the name of Raisins? Which represents Coventry South, accused ministers of denying that racism is a problem in the UK. says the MP, Muslim MP, oh my goodness, and argues that there are recent pledges to tackle violence against women in the wake of Sarah Everett's killing. Although there was a asylum seeker who chopped up and dismembered a woman, and that was sort of covered up as well. Interesting how they just spin it one way. Little more than spinning empty promises. A fashionable issue of the race. So that was an immigrant chopping up a white woman, and but that's not seen as racism as well. It's only if it plays into their hands. So they're not fair arbitrators. They are deliberately. They want one rule for one for another, and to poison the well between men and women. Her comments come after a recent report which has fiercely criticised claims that Britain is no longer an institutionally racist country. From the woman who's a member of Parliament. So is she saying that she's part of the institutional racism? I don't know if that's what it is. Let's see what Georgie Porgy's saying. George Galloway. George. Because she's part of it. Georgie Porgy. Scottish leader, Queen of the South, to face no action after allowing Galloway into game. Scottish club apologised for letting George Galloway into match. That's disgraceful. I don't know why George wouldn't be allowed into a match. That's absolutely terrible. George Galloway shames SNP activists. What was that? Something in the... What was it? Oh, there it is there. Oh, this is great. So, I mean, George is obviously a Marxist, which I don't adhere to, considering the Marxism has killed 100 million people. But for some reason, I really like Georgie Porgy. I don't know what it is, but I don't know, an old commie.
It takes a special kind of brass neck.
He's got, look at his shirt, he's got some shirt, he's so elegant.
A Nicola Sturgeon neck, you might call it, to shower promises of freebies made possible only by Scotland being a part of the Union and receiving a massive subvention greater than any other part of the United Kingdom from the Treasury in London to pay for freebies for votes that will be used to break up the Union that paid for the freebies in the first place. That's if you get the freebies. It's very important to remember all the freebies they promised in the past. You remember they promised to scrap the council tax? It's still here. You remember they promised to give all of our children a laptop that they could use during the long lockdown when they were shut out of school? Again, they're still not here.
Georgie Porgy. I think Georgie Porgy is going to get elected. I think he'll probably need 4 or 5%. And I think people will vote for Georgie Porgy not because they like him because he's a communist. I just closed there. I just closed. So, I think they'll vote for him because he's actually quite competent. So this is wee Nippy paying her homage to the globalists of the CFR.
And I'm delighted to be with you this morning to preside over a discussion.
Don't forget who these guys are connected with, Soros and the guys in America as well.
The First Minister of Scotland. Nicola Sturgeon was elected deputy leader of the Scottish National Party.
Yeah, obviously the SNP are not a nationalist party. I'll come to that in a second.
The SNP in 2004. And in that capacity, she went on to become a high-profile figure in the Scottish Parliament and Scottish politics, leading to
and she should resign.
History-making election as leader of the SNP in November of last year. She became the first woman to hold the position.
She's done a terrible job. She's done a terrible job. I mean, as I said, I voted for her. I didn't vote for her because she was a woman. I voted for her because I thought she would do a good job. And she's done a terrible job. She's been not competent.
Minister of Scotland.
And she has a brass neck. I mean, she should have resigned by now. Much worse than Henry McLeish.
But she made further history 2 months ago after a vigorous campaign when her party won a landslide in the UK general elections, capturing 56 of 59 seats designated for Scotland in the National Parliament. She will begin by making remarks, and then I'll sit down with her for a conversation before we take your questions. Please join me in welcoming the First Minister of Scotland, Nicola.
Well, wee Nippy pledged her allegiance to the globalist body, not to the Scottish people. That's where wee Nippy's allegiance lies, to the globalists.
Thank you very much indeed, Judy, for that very warm introduction. Thank you to all of you for being here this morning. It is a real pleasure for me to be here. It's a real pleasure for me to be here in the United States, here in Washington,
talking to the globalists,
DC, and in particular to be here at
as a globalist show,
the Council on Foreign Relations, august and well-respected organisation, not just in the United States, but
I'll do your bidding and call myself a nationalist.
Worldwide. One of the things I've been reminded of often since I arrived on this visit to the US at the weekend is the fact that the bonds, the very deep bonds between
James Bonds,
Scotland and the United States go back centuries. They run from the discussion and the debate between Enlightenment thinkers
and you being a commie,
such as David Hume and Benjamin Franklin.
That you rejected, and on the record I've already covered that you rejected these for your SJW nonsense from the Frankfurt School.
To the modern exchange of university graduates and the connections between our technology companies, the relations.
the globalist companies who are suppressing anybody who doesn't agree with the globalist agenda, without any protection from you, isn't it, wee Nippy?
Between our two countries is cultural, it is social, it is historic, and of course it is economic as well, and we value those links and those ties very highly. And from what I've seen and observed on my visit this week is that those ties are set to continue and indeed to strengthen for generations to come. So it is a real pleasure to be here this morning at the Council on Foreign Relations, an organisation which
is a front for the globalists.
For more than 90 years has contributed to that exchange of ideas between the United States and the wider world.
To promote the globalist agenda.
I'm especially pleased to be speaking at this particular time. I'm very aware that there is a strong interest here in political developments, not just in Scotland, but across the United Kingdom as a whole. And there is understandably an interest in the implications of these developments for Europe and for the wider international community. Before we begin our discussion, therefore, I want to provide a very brief overview of my thoughts on where the United Kingdom and Scotland stand right now. And in doing that, I'll talk about 2 referendums and 1 election. I'll look back briefly at the referendum on Scottish independence that took place last year, and also at the UK general election that took place just last month. But I'll also look forward to the referendum on the United Kingdom's membership of the European Union, which is expected to take place sometime before the end of 2017, although the exact timing of that referendum is not yet determined. Now, as you've probably guessed, or as you're probably able to guess, the first referendum on Scottish independence, which took place last September, didn't turn out exactly as I would have hoped that it would. But while that referendum might not have transformed Scotland's constitutional position, it undoubtedly transformed Scottish politics, and I would argue it has had a transformational effect on United Kingdom politics as well. Firstly, that referendum has made Scotland one of the most politically engaged countries, I would argue, in the entire world. Nearly everybody in Scotland last year became intensely involved in a peaceful and passionate debate about the kind of country they wanted to live in. And that debate has had lasting...
Aye, but you silence people who don't agree with you, so that's what you do.
...consequences. For example, in the UK general election last month, voter turnout in Scotland was some 5 percentage points higher than it was in the rest of the United Kingdom. Many people who perhaps previously hadn't had any interest whatsoever in politics or how the country was governed.
Hey, we're all starting to pay attention now that you're mismanaging it.
Who understand that their vote and their voice really matters. They feel involved in decision making in a way that hasn't happened before, certainly not in my lifetime. So regardless of the result, the referendum itself, the experience of the referendum has been good for Scotland. We're more energised, more informed and more empowered than we have ever been before. The result of that referendum also provided part of the context for last month's UK general election. To the casual observer, the UK election produced a very clear result. It resulted in the election of a majority Conservative government and saw the return of David Cameron as Prime Minister. But when you look at that election result in more detail, something striking and much more complex emerges. Because in many ways, there were actually 4 different elections taking place in the United Kingdom.
One for the globalists, one for the fake nationalists who are globalists, one for the Conservative Unionists, the Lib Lab Con Party who are globalists.
Last month, in each of the different nations of the United Kingdom, and those elections produced very different results, and the differences in those results have very significant implications for the UK, for the future of the UK and how it is governed as a country. So my party, the Scottish National Party, won the election in Scotland with, as Judy has...
Fake nationalists, the gimps.
Just told you, 56 out of the 59 electoral constituencies in Scotland. Labour won the election in Wales. The Conservatives won in England with 60% of the seats there. And of course, Northern Ireland has and always has had a very different system of party politics. So there was no one uniform result across the United Kingdom.
Seems like a bunch of neo-Marxist one, apart from in England.
Multinational.
Where the corporatist globalist one.
United Kingdom voted in 4 very different ways. And shortly before the election, I raised the question of what actually constitutes an electoral mandate in the UK when the 4 nations are voting in and pulling in very different directions. In practical terms...
It sounds like a bunch of Marxists, one cultural Marxists and globalist gimps that are in power apart from Northern Ireland and potentially in England.
Of course, simply winning enough votes and seats in England can secure a parliamentary majority. But when a government is achieved only by winning seats in one of the 4 nations of the UK, the question arises, what kind of mandate is that?
Right, okay, that's me, had enough of her. I can't listen to any more of that either. Please, no more. What are you guys saying? Oh dear. Yes, Dave, that's because we won't be able to forecast. The biggest traitor in many a year. Yeah, that's right, Rena Fairs, that's right. She's trying to believe her own lies. Of course she is, trying to get us to believe her lies as well. Peaceful, for goodness sake. What planet does that character live on? She needs to crack more informed. Oh, you're lost, Nippy. Well, we're starting to wake people up. So let's see if we can get. That's quite an interesting one. You should have a wee look at that yourself. Assessing Scotland's future, not under Nicola Sturgeon. So let's see if we can get back to wee pal Calamity. Oh, it's Georgie Porgy. Well, let's have a look at Georgie Porgy.
Of all talk shows, it's been too long.
Now, Lewis MacLeod's a cracking fella. I used to work with his brother, and he's absolutely dynamite. He's a lovely, lovely fella, really is. So let's see what he's saying.
Tony Blair is the longest serving Prime Minister with the largest majorities each time. So he's on that list for a reason. He could explain things properly, with charisma. Nigel says that's some choice. There should be a button for all of the above. And John says, Blair, he has destroyed the fabric of this country with his immigration policy. And Max says, David Cameron, definitely the slimiest and sleaziest. Blair just downright evil. John Major was just the grey man who liked eating peas. And tucking his shirt into his underpants and making the beast with 2 backs with Edwina Curry. I suppose none of that counts as sleaze nowadays. Now, quite the funniest man that I have ever met in person, and I've met quite a few funny men, is my next guest. Lewis MacLeod is an actor and an impressionist. He made a big impression on me. Let's see how he does with you. Lewis MacLeod, very welcome.
From the Clan MacLeod.
On to the mother of all talk shows. It's been too long. It's great to see you again. There was a golden age of impressionists.
Oh, do you want the Georgie Porgy? You Lewis, do one.
You know, Rory Bremner's period and so on, but has the practice fallen slightly out of the zeitgeist? What's your take on that? Are you getting plenty of work?
I'm getting plenty of work thanks to you, Gigi, with that incredible voice that you have, where you can shout to the heavens and then come down to this part here, which is wonderful. You are an impressionist's dream, Gigi, with your platitudes. I love it.
Yeah, there's loads.
Platitudes are platitudes here.
It's wonderful to speak to you, Gigi, yet again. It's just great. The shows that we do, like Dead Ringers, we rely on the writers, and that allows.
You think I should start speaking like this, and then move away like this? This might be better for the impressionists.
To focus on the voice that we're doing that week. And of course it changes, and they're always looking for new characters, and I think that's the sad thing. Can't wait. I must be due on soon. Must be due on to come on to the Spitting Image. Now that there's just not enough. Do you think Peter Smith will be on? Racist. He'll be popping up. Racist. There's not enough characters like yourself. I mean, if you look at you, with I mean, as I say, you could write sketches around. You're great in a sketch, however the caricature is, and I'm sure you've heard many of them, and you've got a great sense of humour to be able to have me on and been. It's good to see Georgie Porgy smile. I think that's great that he's smiling there. I think he's quite serious, a bit like Tommy Sheridan. Tommy Sheridan's actually a good laugh when you get him one-to-one. Personally, you. A lot of them don't like it, but and people like, you've got Nigel, no, let me speak. That was one of the things about Nigel, is I sort of made a rod for my own back with him, because, of course, he speaks so quickly, and he sort of laughs as he's talking. And, so whenever I was reading a script from Nigel, it was always about 200 miles an hour, so I couldn't even keep up with with my own impersonation of him. But
and he's chucked it now, Lewis.
What's that?
He's chucked it now. He's out of politics. You're right. I mean, the big characters are fading away.
I'm coming, George. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, we've got two Boris Johnsons on Dead Ringers. We've got John Culshaw, who impersonates good Boris, and then you have me doing the wah-wah-hee-hee-wah. I'd like to say, joculants. I want an award for services to Scotland. I mean, I've got a great team. Look at me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, politician of the year being 1802. With the exception, you've got Jacob Rees-Mogg, that sort of thing that he does. Again, you can mimic him. There's just not very many others. Keir Starmer was quite difficult to do.
Well, he's a block of wood. How do you impersonate a block of wood?
That's quite good. Georgie Porgy. Lewis is a crank guy. He had a great time working for his brother as well. Great family, great bunch. So, family party, that's what we want to do. So let's go through this. All right, we'll go back right here. So we're back to the foxhole. We will create a new programme of anti-racist education in schools. And this is supported by the Scottish Greens and the SNP. Fake parties, these two. To track progress, we will improve the reporting and publication of data of racist incidents in schools, which will just be against white children. Chris McGovern, a retired head teacher and chairman of the Campaign for Real Education, called the plans blinkered. I think we'll have to speak to the Campaign for Real Education, saying it's distorting and racist to teach history through the narrow perspective proposed by the SNP. So the fake nationalists, I know what I was doing.
We've all met one or two, Bob.
The fake nationalists are actually now wanting to teach anti-Scottish propaganda to your children. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. Where's Nicola Sturgeon?
Want to build an online course without dealing with a bunch of confusing tech tools? Do it with Kajabi.
This Hogmanay, as we look forward to a new year, most of us will be relieved to be ringing out the old one. 2020 has been unimaginably difficult. Thousands have lost loved ones. Our society has been upended. Our economy has taken a severe hit. Many have lost jobs. Families have had to cancel holidays. And of course, Christmas plans had to be cancelled too.
Since I left Scotland almost a decade ago now, I've sat by and watched my country be split in two by an independence referendum. I've watched shit posters get hauled through court over a wee pug and a joke. And I've watched Nicola Sturgeon and her band of woke separatists rip the absolute... Since I left Scotland almost a decade...
This calamity.
This Hogmanay, as we look...
Oh my goodness, trying to find it. Oh, there it is.
The children of Scotland would like to say thank you to Nicola, our First Minister of Scotland.
Is welcome to come to Scotland. Our view is anybody is welcome to come to Scotland. Where you come from doesn't matter. If you want to make Scotland your home, you are welcome, and we want you to make a contribution.
So this is what I'm saying about, this is the globalist agenda. She's parroting, obviously, what her allegiance was to the Council of Foreign Relations. I understand that people who don't get politics as in-depth as this, you may be going, what? I don't understand. But this is just the globalist agenda. Open borders, mass immigration, discriminating against your own people, and this is how fake the Nicola Sturgeon is.
My party, in a United Kingdom context, is probably the most pro-immigration party of all.
Because she's a globalist shill.
But there's also a practical reason for Scotland. Scotland is a country, and we're not unique in this sense, but the demographics of Scotland.
You've not had any children, you're not promoting the family, which is obviously Richard Lucas's agenda with the family party. You've done nothing, and you want to sort of criminalise young men and blame young men, obviously with allegations that you're a lesbian. Certainly maybe have penisophobia because you're a lesbian, which is understandable. I've got penisophobia as well. And the fact is that you've not produced any children, so surely you should be looking internally at you. You've not even surrogated for other people who might want to have children. You haven't done anything. So you're part of the problem, aren't you, Nicola? You're actually talking about yourself here. That's not managed to produce any children. And even if you look at Ruth Davison, who is an open lesbian, she's only produced one child, and I think she's married to another woman, which I've got zero problem with. But I don't know if the other person's produced children. So we've got a whole host of women in the Scottish Parliament that have not produced any children, and then you're not pointing the finger at yourself, are you? You're not saying, having any introspect and saying, oh, what have we done to actually increase the birth rate? It's always somebody else's problem.
Scotland are quite challenging. Our birth rate is not...
Which you've done nothing to help.
Growing at a fast enough rate.
So I would suggest that, like the family party, encouraging stable relationships and increased birth rates. If you're not having at least 3 or more children, we're in a negative term for actually population replacement. No, I'm not saying that's easy. I'm just saying that's the reality from a statistical point of view.
Our population is ageing, which is a good thing. People are living longer.
Your fault. So the only thing that you can do is demographically replace the population, not actually encourage the procreation amongst other people here. The only thing you can do is to follow the globalist agenda and population replacement.
Face a situation in future that if we don't attract people to come and live in Scotland...
Or you could just try and actually encourage people to have sex in Scotland. How about that, Nicola? How about that revolutionary idea? We obviously know that that's not a part of your globalist agenda, the underlying agenda, and the fact that you're a fake nationalist.
Our working age population may decline, regardless of where they come from. If you choose to live in Scotland, then as far as I'm concerned, you're Scottish.
So just again, the globalist agenda, not a nationalist.
You were born here and 3 generations of your family were born here, or whether you've only lived here for a few months.
So let's have a look at this.
if I could turn the clock back, 90 years to the establishment of my party and choose its name all over again, I wouldn't choose the name it's got just now. I would call it something other than the Scottish National Party. Now,
how about the intersectional, lesbian, feminist, men-hating, globalist shell party? How about that? Or just the Gimps? We could just call it an Islamo-Marxist party. How about we just call you the Gimps? Postmodernist Marxist Party, or SJW Gimps? How about that? How about that for the real underlying political agenda that you're on? And stop lying, calling yourself a nationalist party. I think you should change the name to the Gimp Party.
people say, why don't you change its name now? And it's like,
call yourself the Gimps, because then we would all know what you actually are, and stop trying to mislead the Scottish Parliament. More people have been killed under the far left, whether it be National Socialism, Communism, fascism to a lesser extent. The fascists actually didn't kill that many people. I'm not saying they didn't kill people, I'm just saying proportionally to these other ideologies. But the mass murdering of the far left is legendary.
Well, that would be far too complicated because
calling yourselves Gimps would maybe wake people up to what you actually are.
You know, what those of us who do support Scottish independence are all about
is SJW postmodernist Marxism.
It could not be further removed from some of what you would
because you're communist.
recognise as nationalism.
She's very serious. She's Turkish, I think. I could go into a whole series about there. Who replaced the Byzantine Empire
In other parts of the world.
So she's already admitting it. She's not a nationalist. She's not. Nicola Sturgeon is not a nationalist. She's an SJW. That's incredible, because that's exactly what I was going to be going for next. Absolutely incredible. So basically, the name is a misnomer, and she's actually lying about what the actual SNP are. The Scottish National Party are not a nationalist party. So I mean, so we're being actually literally deceived of what these actual characters are. So let's go through.
There could be up to 21 parties on the regional list ballot paper in next year.
Well, I'm not going to. I'm just going to take I've already gone through this whole procedure, but I'm just going to go through who is the globalist and who's globalist shills and who's actually the potentially not a globalist shill party. When I just so we're all clear, I'm not talking about internationalists and wanting free trade and good relationships with other countries. I'm talking about who are moving us towards the one world government, the mass immigrations, open borders, and basically the destruction of the indigenous population. That's what the globalists and the SJWs, Wee Nippy, has already admitted that she is in a roundabout way. What she actually is. What are you guys saying? You keep hiding this. Calamity. So what are you saying? This is not my Scotland? Yeah, of course not. This is authoritarians. This is Islamo-Marxists who are increasingly bringing in the globalist agenda. Your founder was a Nazi. Well, he may well have been a National Socialist. Well, I mean, the Scottish National Party are now SJW Socialists, which is different from a National Socialist. She has to enlist votes from Europe. The women's traitor and an arse. That's from another woman. She's looking for votes. Open borders, invite all, and seal the votes. That's not the underlying agenda. That's part of it. But the actual underlying agenda is to destroy the country and to actually give away. It's almost as if you bought a house and you're going to give it away. Well, just come in and just use my house and do whatever you want with. That's their agenda. That's the agenda of all five of the political parties. It's not just the SNP. Even the Conservative Party are a globalist party. Don't think Ruthie Baby is a corporatist globalist. Don't be in any doubt that she's not. Certainly, the liberal, undemocratic Democrats are. The Labour are just a shill party as well. They're all the five main parties. That's why the media restrict the other parties from actually bringing out alternative ideas, because all of them are shill parties, not just Europe and the Middle East as well. So I'm going to go into this. So the Tories. This is the Tories that did this. So, I mean, it's up on the thing. So, this is Jacques Chirac's presence. This is why all the people are coming in and they're committing terrorist attacks. This has been allowed to happen by the Conservative Party, not anybody else. So, the Barcelona process or Euro-Mediterranean partnership, this was a stepping stone to get towards the one world government. This was for open borders so they can destroy the nation state and then they can move it forward through the EU stage one and then from the five continents, African, North American, European, Asian and South American, they will move it into the one world government, possibly through the United Nations, again unelected, just as the Commission in the EU is unelected. So this is the medium that they've actually done it. So this is the Tories that did this. So it's important that you understand is the Tories have brought this in. The Barcelona process or Euro-Mediterranean partnership. The Barcelona process or the European-Mediterranean partnership started in 1995. So it's under the Tories that these people are getting let in as well. We've got the Tories are a de facto open immigration party. They've got 40,000 people have come in to the UK in the middle of a pandemic, and they've allowed that to happen, not returned them to the country of origin. Even the people who are failed asylum seekers are not being deported. Even the ones that are committing horrendous criminal acts are still not being deported. We've got jihadists in jail who are converting non-Muslims into being Muslims as well. Barcelona, it was organised by the European Union to strengthen its relationships with countries in the Maghreb and Mascarig regions, the partnership. So this is to allow our corporations access to their markets. That's the reason behind it. But in return, we get open borders and mass immigration and then get treated as a second-class citizen in our own country. The partnership laid foundations for what to come in the Union in the Mediterranean. So, the Union of the Mediterranean, previously known, this is under Jacques Chirac, Nicolas Sarkozy, previously known as the Mediterranean Union. So this is again to join the European Union to North Africa and the Near Middle East, the Near East. Is a community established. This is why they're trying to get Turkey on as well. On the 13th of July 2008 by President Nicolas Sarkozy as a development of the Mediterranean Partnership. See also the Barcelona process or the Euro-Mediterranean Partnership. This is the globalists trying to conjoin the African Union with the European Union and have de facto open immigration policies. That's why Soros has backed the transportation of people across the Mediterranean, and people are not even being deported when they're found to be illegally here. They're now being given votes to vote in our parliament, to our parliamentary system, and which will then lessen the actual people who are here, and they'll devalue the votes of people who are here. So people have, and all these wars to actually protect Scotland and protect Scotland's values have all been a waste of time, because Nicola Sturgeon is literally, through the use of open immigration, giving away the country. And it's a deliberate policy, and so are the Tories. And if you look at what the Tories and Nicola Sturgeon have done under this pandemic, they've both done nearly exactly the same. What's my baby Guerilla saying? Davey, can you address Celtic's point? I think it's relevant. Not just Europe, but the Middle East as well. It's annoying because I support the Scottish Libertarian Party wanting a free country, but at the same point they want open borders. Yeah, that's right. That's why I left. But I would still, on this, it's not going to matter you voting for them on this matter. In the coming period, we'll set up a new political party. But just now, it's worthwhile actually still voting for them, because it's not really going to matter. All of the other parties are open borders anyway, so getting another open borders party in there is really an irrelevance. Not one of them are taking charge of the border situation anyway, so it's a complete waste of time just now anyway. You would have to vote for other parties who actually address it. So what I'll do is, when I'm going through the globalist parties, I'll try and point out who's an open immigration party as well. But Soros and the globalists, it's not just Soros. George Soros is a Jewish supremacist. It's not just Jewish people. The banking system and what they're saying is the globalists, it's not just Jews. You all know about the 13 families, don't you?
Hi, I'm Adrian, founder of Cuban.
Although Soros will be part of it.
Beyonce taught us that girls run the world, but sadly the Queen Bee is gravely mistaken.
This was
आज हम आपको इस वीडियो में बताएंगे उन 13 खानदानों के बारे में
Chomsky. I'd be quite interested. I'd not looked at that. The actual wealth to actually be able to be in this position here are the 7 wealthiest families. The actual amount of money to actually be able to manipulate the situation it would be absolutely staggering.
the 10 most powerful families in the world. The Rothschilds. Before the Napoleonic Wars, this family of Jewish origin was already considered one of the richest in the world. The family began its...
I'll let you have a wee look at that yourself. I'm not going to go too far into that, but I think there's a bigger cabal behind Soros than Soros himself. I don't think it's just George Soros who's doing it, although he is connected to the implementation of this. But it could not be happening without Nicola Sturgeon's consent and obviously support that Nicola Sturgeon is doing this. So... the Scottish Socialist Party are an open borders exponents as well, as far as I'm aware. I don't want to malign anybody, but this is what I know just now. I don't think they're actually a globalist party. I think they're actually a Scottish Nationalist Party, but if you're open for open borders, you're de facto a globalist party, as far as I can see. Solidarity, again, both, as far as I'm aware, and this is off the top of my head, and I may be wrong, and I'll correct myself if I am wrong, both Solidarity and the Scottish Socialist Party were like old-fashioned type of socialists, maybe verging on the Marxist. I don't want to say that in case I'm wrong. I would certainly listen to them and find out exactly where they are politically. I don't like prejudging people politically, but this is off the top of my head. So I believe that both Solidarity and there's certainly what would be traditionally known as not anti-racist, but not the new anti-racist, which is anti-white racism, which I think we all sort of support. But the fact is that any open borders, whether covertly or overtly, exponents of a political party are doing the globalist bidding, whether surreptitiously or overtly.
Loosely, because I can't actually see any extreme left.
So the Greens are pretty much a globalist. They'll do what they're told by wee Nippy, and they'll try and bring in there, as far as I'm aware, they're trying to bring in this anti-white racism that's called anti-racism, and they seem quite happy with that. They're presided over the decline in the Scottish population, and their only option is open borders as well. So they are de facto, whether or not they're explicitly part of the cabal. You can be just a useful idiot, and I think obviously Moby's just a useful idiot.
Swing sewn up.
So the Labour Party, obviously, we've got Sawa and the Labour Party. They've been shilling for the globalists for years. What do you call them? What's his name? Who's the leader? Who's the leader of the Labour Party? Stammer was part of the Trilateral Commission with Jeffrey Epstein. So he's just like Blair, Cameron, Major. Every one of these are actually globalist shills as well. So it doesn't matter which political party you are, it's whether or not you're actually a supporter of the overarching globalist agenda towards the one world technocracy government, where the bankers and the one world government will work as one, and they will have ultimate control.
To that, Nicola Sturgeon replies, well, first of all, I'd like to...
So and you can see how only the 5 leaders of these parties were actually invited on to the programme. So what they do is they restrict the media access to the average individual, so that these people cannot. So that the average person cannot get other political ideas. They've just restricted it to the 5 globalist parties, which obviously the SNP, which we've already gone through substantially, is a globalist shill party. Liberal, undemocratic. Democrats, they were trying to overturn the referendum. They've totally sold us out. Illiberal and not democratic, and they're definitely just shilling for the globalist 110%. Now, the SDP are a funny one, because I know a lot of the guys who left UKIP actually got into this. So I don't know if these are... I don't know the answer to this. I don't know. They seem to relatively sound on immigration, and because they were UKIP, that some of these guys sound quite sound. But a social democrat is also in the Liberal Democrats, the liberal undemocratic Democrats. Tony Blair would have been under the social democratic mold, but he was a globalist social democrat. Alex Salmond, I would suggest, is a social democrat, where he is politically on the compass. And he's a nationalist, but also a globalist as well. So, I mean, all of these are,
carried on in the background.
So the Conservative Party are a corporatist globalist party. I mean, part of them are, part of them are not. Part of them are more traditionally conservative. Part of them were shilling for the globalist. Boris, although get rid of a lot of the Bilderbergers, which is obviously another organisation shilling for the globalists. Boris, for what he's done and with the vaccines and all and passports, so I'd like to show you this as well. So this is in the Boris Johnson ditches pub vaccine passport plan. So it says here, has Boris shown COVID passports the red card? Vaccine proof will not be needed at FA Cup final pilot. Vaccine passports faces a legal challenge. So, I mean, he was obviously getting it tight there. Vaccine passports for pubs. So obviously the vaccine passports, and I think they should be doing that. But we nippy, because she's such an authoritarian, let's do the vaccine passport. She's pathetic. Was double checking. So let's go back to this. So refugee. So Globalist then went over to Marrakesh and then signed this. This was the open immigration policy that they did, that people who aren't even refugees could come here and were basically not asked permission, not had it in any one of their manifestos, but just a de facto open immigration policy, and saying that these people are refugees when they're not refugees, and just letting people walk into the country. And we've just seen that wee Nippy's saying, oh, that's great, anybody that's had a Scotch is now Scottish, because she's absolutely on board with this. There was a petition of 100,000 people signed on the British parliamentary website to have this discussed, and it wasn't discussed under May, because obviously May's a shell for the globalists as well. Millions of migrants and refugees from four corners of the world are looking up with mixed feelings at the Marrakesh, Morocco, where world leaders and governments, officials from more than 150 states formally adopted Monday a group of UN-led global agreements on migration. The UN Global Compact on Migration was formally approved on Monday in Marrakesh, Morocco, after oral proclamations and traditional hammer blow in front of 150 countries gathered intergovernmental. But it only works one way. It's only going to be into our country, which we're now getting called white supremacist countries, where we're now our own government are actually going to be selling us out like wee Nippy. This is the globalist agenda. Purge loads of shotguns. David Cushion just got a 7-day ban from YouTube for disinformation about COVID. The purge continues, of course. I'm getting hardly any views. I'm getting hardly any views on YouTube. I've already been kicked off Facebook. I'm getting smeared in the papers, as you've seen. Get reputation destroyed. They don't care about destroying you. That's their agenda. They don't care about if they destroy your life. As long as the agenda's been put forward, they're quite happy to destroy you and your life. Said at the opening of the debate, we must succumb to fear and false narratives about immigration. Because they want de facto open immigration policy to basically displace you. So people who have not paid any tax or anything are able to come in, get social housing ahead of the people who have paid, and then they're basically kicked off. Once a critical mass comes, they don't vote for other people who used to be there, they vote for other people. So it's basically a replacement policy, and the wee Nippy is actually firmly on board with, and so are the other parties. So again, the Scottish Conservative Party are a corporatist, globalist party as well. They are on board with it. And even don't let Boris fool you as well. Boris, I think, is a corporatist party as well. So UKIP are probably the one that will do the most on immigration and wanted to stop the agenda, the globalist agenda, which they successfully under Nigel did actually do. And I think they'll be sound on immigration, but I don't know what their other policies are in Scotland. I think they wanted to abolish the Scottish Parliament, which I'm not in favour of either. So you then lose part of what could be good policies against the other policies that you're actually promoting. So the UKIP are a sound, but I wouldn't want to abolish the Scottish Parliament. And then you've got this other abolish Holyrood party, so I don't know how big they're going to get. I don't know what their globalist agenda is. I don't know whether pro or anti-globalist. I don't know whether pro or anti-immigration. Now, I'm not anti-immigration and people coming here, but this is not about immigration. This is a deliberate globalist policies to basically push out the Scottish populace. For Britain, she's quite sound in Islam. I think she was part of UKIP, and I'm not quite sure what the rest of the policies are. These smaller parties have a difficulty when they're sound on certain policies. They have a difficulty pushing out other policies, and so do we know where they are in immigration, what their policies are, etc., etc., etc. We've got the Scottish Libertarian Party, great party. The only problem is they're still open immigration. So there has to be another party, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, but there will have to be another party in the libertarian sphere. Don't forget the libertarian spectrum is just as big as the authoritarian spectrum. So there's plenty of scope in the libertarian side of the political compass for other parties. And who is this?
You get 2 votes. The first vote for the constituency. And their philosophy is, and leave it up to free markets and free individuals. Anyway, that's the libertarian.
So they're basically Adam Smith exponents, the Scottish Enlightenment, unlike wee Nippy who decries the Scottish Enlightenment for the idiots in the Frankfurt School.
Yes. Right, moving on. The Independent Scotland Party. This is a new party. And their philosophy is, in the Scottish election, you get 2 votes. The first vote for the constituency, second vote on the regional list.
So I don't know if they're just ex-SNP members and part of the globalist problem. I'm not quite sure. Don't know about them. There's Acts for Independence. Again, don't know if they're a globalist party. Don't know what their policies are on immigration. Georgie Porgy is a communist. George was accused of racism. He's in a mixed ethnic marriage. I don't think his partner's a different race. I think he's part of the human race. And George has always been very open about supporting other people, but he was called a racist about something about Israel in the Oxford Union or the Cambridge Union. I think it was Oxford Union. And it was called a racist there. So the word racist is completely devalued. I mean, if there was somebody who was openly racist, I don't think they would. Get actually found out now, because everything's racist now. Globalists want everything to be racist, so there's no value to the word racism. The people who are being racist is the people who are the anti-racist now. Reform UK, obviously Nigel's mob, sound on immigration, sound on the anti-globalist, and yeah, I mean, if you're a unionist and you want to vote for them, I would suggest that the Reform UK is probably your best option for if you're a unionist and want to be part of the union, that you vote for Nigel's. I don't think they want to abolish the Scottish Parliament as well. So, Reclaim Party, don't know, that's obviously Colin Fox's mob. And I don't know what their positions are in globalism or immigration, or will they deport illegal immigrants, and we don't know. So these are all things we don't know. Again, with the Scottish Christian Party, don't know what the policies in globalism is, or the globalist agenda. Don't know what the party policies are on immigration. So don't know. So I'll try and find out. I'll try and actually maybe start phoning them and try and find out if they've got numbers. They should be getting numbers for these parties. If you're standing in an election, you should be getting parties. You should be getting phone numbers.
You can see a banner here from recent one of their, this is from their website. Second wave, there wasn't the first one.
So these guys sound quite sound. They quite like this bunch. I'm not quite sure. Again, don't know what their globalist agenda is. So the Women's Equality Party, I would suggest this is a far left grievance party. And we've already got somebody that hates men as the First Minister. I don't know if we want a whole group of them. We'll obviously have to look at what happened to women in Sweden to see what happens with feminists when they get into power. And they don't care about women. They just want the power. So I wouldn't be voting for these characters. Don't know. I would suspect that these are either useful idiots for the globalists, or they also want to fracture the family party, the family unit, and don't seem to be very pro-men as well. Obviously the family party, don't know. Richard, are you a globalist shill? I don't know. What's your policies on immigration? Don't know. And the Alba Party, I don't know where the Alba Party's gone to. So we've got the Liberal Party. Again, the Liberals and the Social Democrats combined to get the illiberal, liberal, undemocratic Democrats. So I don't know where. I'm a Liberal, but I'm a Libertarian Liberal. But I don't know where the Liberal Party is on the political compass now. I don't know what the policies on immigration or the globalist agenda is. And I don't know what the policies are for the Freedom Alliance, I think it was as well. I don't even know what Jada Francis' policies are on globalism or immigration as well. So I want to know what I'm voting for. I don't want to know what I'm not voting for. Or all of these need to have a platform. I will give you, if any of these parties want to come on and want to answer questions from me, I will give you a platform so that we can find out, so that we know what we're voting for. Any one of these parties, left or right or centre, it's no problem to me. I'm a free speech absolutist, and I believe in your right to have your say. I actually like talking to Colin Fox, although obviously Colin and I don't share the same political agenda. He's certainly civil and is somebody I can actually have a conversation with. I'm sure I could do likewise with Richard Lucas, but we can see that the Lib Lab Con Party don't want to have conversations because they don't want to be held accountable by somebody else who understands their agenda. And Granny, her granny's English, I think she's probably did. Sturgeon would sell her granny out. You guys are so on the ball. It comes down to this. We have an FM who will harvest votes wherever she can, even the detriment of Scotland. I couldn't have said it better myself, man, and that's absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. Yeah, sell her granny. Lots of racist and fascist towards the Scottish born people by so-called Scottish politicians. That's right, Graham. That's right, buddy. Graham just in it for the money as well. Yeah, I'll let them. It's not even. I don't even mind them doing a grift on the politics. If they were improving the lives of all Scottish people, then I wouldn't mind. But they're not even doing that. This happened before in the past. Only 1.5 million Scots born and bloodied left in Scotland. As little as that, Graham. Goodness. Well, obviously, you know my name's Ballantyne, so I would take it I'm one of them. Even though I'm getting discriminated against in an area, a council area, where my families came for hundreds and hundreds of years before Bannockburn. We're being pushed out. We're certainly being it's a deliberate eradication policy, so let's not kid on. And this has only happened in 40, 50 years. This hasn't happened over a long period of time. But you guys have to hold your own responsibility. You guys are the voting public. You guys have to vote for people who are going to be more accountable, and you not vote for the Lib Lab Con Party, the SNP and the Greens. You need to come away from that. That's so sad, Graham. Yeah. My baby gorillas, I don't even know how long I've went there. That's been a long ramble, but I hope you found it interesting. I certainly enjoyed talking about it. It's interesting to see the other entities, what's happening. Let's have a wee look on Twitter before we go. So has Boris shown COVID passports the red card? So we'll find out that very soon. Go and look up your own, look up the history and see if I was correct, if I was wrong, if I was correct. Don't just take my word for it, do your own assessment. Have a wee look at assessing Scotland's future and basically selling it out to the globalists. That's what wee Nippy's doing. Oh, and here we go. So we're back to I never finished this. Blinkard says it's distorting and racist to teach history through the narrow perspective proposed by the SNP. Humankind's capacity for good and evil has nothing to do with skin colour. Not if you're an SJW gimp. The SNP's education policy needs to stop playing truant with the truth. McGovern added, sounds like a good guy. Lindsay Patterson, an education policy professor at the University of Edinburgh, called on politicians to leave this kind of topic to teachers who know very well how to handle controversy sensitively. Claire Adamson, the SNP candidate for Motherwell and Wishaw. Don't forget, vote Dank up in Motherwell and Wishaw, guys. Vote Dank. 2 votes for Dank. defended the policy, telling the Telegraph the SNP is committed to strengthening education for our young people and recognising the importance of having equality and human rights embedded in our education. This isn't equality and human rights. This is you browbeating the Indigenous population, you absolute sellouts. Only by listening to the very real concerns raised and recognising learning from our past will we be able to properly move forward together. I think we should talk about the mass murders of by communists and National Socialists. I think, which obviously you, Claire Adamson, seems to not have any sort of understanding of, being a potential wee SJW yourself. So go and have a wee look at that as well. Thanks for sharing my funding page. Buddy, no problem. And so... what else we got? Through hands with a 13-year-old. 0.8 million views. Can you translate to the Queen's English? What Dank's saying there, that's quite interesting. Not sure what's happening there. Justice set to get softer. Oh, that's interesting. Justice set to get softer. Liam Kerr. Conservatives. David Curtin said, I have just had a 7-day ban from YouTube, disagreeing with the World Health Organization, WHO. This is an outrage in the middle of an extremely important election campaign for the Mayor of London. I could have told you they were doing that anyway, David, but you should definitely stand up against the globalists. David Curtin seems like a really nice fella, and he seems to know his politics. But the globalists are, we already know through Davos and their meetings through the Bilderberg Group and things like that, how the globalists are doing it, and they're using how the big tech are protected, and we already know that this is what's actually happening, how they're doing it. They've been copying me. Sturgeon on Sophie Ridge saying funding for the NHS up to 2026 will increase dependent on the Barnett formula though thought you wanted independence, but then Nicola Sturgeon. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Wee Donald SNP out. Wee Donald. If Churchill and the British did not do what they did, we would have lost our freedom. I think we're losing it anyway to the Islamists and the SJW mob, the authoritarians. SNP accused of shortchanging North East Council of 140 million. Who's really behind the gun control? Open your eyes, don't let them fool us. So wee June, I love June, is the bomb. She's quite far left as well. She did a political compass test, but she's very funny. I do like her. I don't judge people on where they are in the political spectrum. I do like to converse, although the left don't like to converse because the left keep getting beaten in debates. That's why they've stopped. Mohammed Rashid is 24 but falsely told the authorities he was a child so he could stay in the UK. He was caught yesterday by a paedophile hunting team when he was turned up to meet a 14-year-old girl for sexual activity after grooming her online. Why is he still here? Yeah, Pretty Patel, why is he still here? Why have you let these people into the country to actually do this? Andrew Marr viewers turn on Labour loser Rachel Reeve over car crash. Oh, I need to see what that's all about. Oh my goodness. Anyway, guys, I'm going to love you and leave you. What are you guys saying before I disappear? Message, don't drink before dinner. Thanks for the company, guys. Yeah, guys, I do enjoy all you chatting away there. It's absolutely fantastic. Shameful in every sense. Yeah, indeed it is. Graham, what are you saying? This happens before in the past. Only 1.5. Listen, my baby gorillas, I absolutely love you guys. And I will see you tomorrow. We're going to start pumping these out. What are we talking about tomorrow? Let's have a wee look at this. I can't even remember what I'm talking about. Oh, we're talking about the decrease in the population. Oh, and what wee Nippy's doing for it. Oh, fantastic. Can't wait. Cannot wait. Let's have a wee look at this tomorrow. Don't forget, vote Dank. Love my baby gorillas.